Welcome back to the all-new Canary Room. We've got new birds, a new microphone, new features on the show, but still the same old shirts. Season 2 is packed full of new features. We've got Bird of the Week. We've got the Canary Room top tips. We'll also have the Redpoll's diaries. Question time's a new feature to the show. Send your questions in on Facebook and we'll answer them at the very end of each show. We're going to go on the road again. So we'll be around leading fanciers. Today we're going to check out Alan Hoary's setup. Alan, stunning British birds. Send in your photos as well, so send us pictures of your setup and tell us what makes it great. We'll catch up with everything that goes on in the room. Since we were last here, we've got nests full of chicks, we've got nestfuls of eggs, and the usual shenanigans in the Canary Room. Enjoy the show. The room is absolutely jam-packed, to the point where Dan is having to clamber over things. It's never been fuller in the Canary Room. We took a trip to Stafford in early March to pack up with lots of things that we need for the season. So we bought our egg food, we got some seed, we got nesting material. Little clip now of Stafford, the size and scale of it, so we can see a little bit of Matcam footage here as we just pan across the room, and you can see the volume of birds that were for sale. There were some nice birds there. Wouldn't normally buy, and I didn't buy anything from Stafford, although we have got some new additions to the room that we'll introduce you to a little bit later on. So we've got all the stuff that we needed for the breeding season. You can see in the cages behind me, we've got the cage configuration, we've got nest pans in, we've got birds on nests, we've got young in nests. So we'll have a little look around now and we'll see some of the pairs that have gone down and some of the young. We're about 6 weeks ahead of where we were last year. And the weather's been quite kind to us, and the new system so far seems to be paying dividends. Now this year we're leaving the cocks separately. They're singled off in the top row and the very bottom row, and then there's 3 rows of hens. What I've been doing is running the cocks in every morning and every night, and not leaving them in with the hens. So I'm going to run this boy in here to this hen. Now I haven't checked the nest this morning, but she had laid yesterday. I'm hoping there's a second egg in. I won't run the bird in any longer after today, because the clutch will be laid over the next few days, and it will be full if it's going to be full. He has filled eggs. The hen behind me is on 4 full eggs from this bird. So this is a mother-daughter pairing. You'll remember in episode 29 or episode 30 of season 1 that we showed some of the pairings that we're going to go on. So I'm going to run this boy in now and we'll see if they mate up. It's the first of our new features. It's Bird of the Week. This week we're going to look at a new addition to the room. Now, this was an unexpected and unplanned purchase, but on a visit to a local friend of mine, a local fancier, Alan Hoary, I picked up a trio of Spanish Raza Canaries. This is the cock, and we'll see in future episodes a couple of the hens, a couple of buff hens we've got. So it's a grizzle marked yellow cock here. Very different to any of the other canaries that we've got in the room. So you can see he's very thin and slender. We can get him up on the perch. We can see he's a thing of beauty. Never owned Razas before. Know what you're going to say. Why have you got them? Well, beautiful bird. I understand they're fantastic feeders as well. We've got another new section of the show, the Redpoll diaries, coming up in a bit, and you'll see that we've got another pair of Redpolls in the room as well. And these guys are hopefully going to give me a hand having a successful Redpoll season. I will breed them straight as well, so I'm looking to try and breed some Razzers. We've got some red young in the nest, we'll see them a little bit later. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is this week's Bird of the Week. Eagle-eyed viewers amongst you will notice that there's been a slight change in the Canary Room, in that the cages are beautifully numbered by my own fair hand. And what you'll also see is this is the hen setup that we've got on. So we've got Cuttle. In this little finger drawer here is oyster shell grit. We're feeding a solution which we've seen, which is supposed to boost egg production. Jury's still out on that because they haven't really had massive rounds, although have had quite a good hatch rate. So we're going to check now. The cage is 9. We're going to check 2, and we'll check 13. They all look like they were going to lay. As I say, this bird had laid yesterday. And what we've got, and it's really simple, this little diary here cost the sum total of 14 pence. I bought it at the beginning of March, and all I'm doing is writing in the cage, and when the first egg's laid, I'm writing in when birds are set, when eggs are due. And it's just it's really handy. What of course I will do is transport all of this information onto the breeding records and breeding sheets. So let's check the cages now, and then if there's eggs in there, we'll take them out and we'll put dummies in to replace them. Another new section to the show, the Canary Room top tips. Now, in season 1, we littered every episode with top tips, and hopefully you'll find that in season 2 we'll do the same. But what we will do is we'll do little segments like this. Now, this time of year, it's pretty much bang on the breeding season. And now what I'm going to show you are my top tips to preparing the canary nest pans. Now, as with everything that we do, it involves borrowing things from different parts of the house. So, first and foremost, from the children's craft box is a little tiny brush. From my other half's beauty collection, a little bit of cotton wool pad. From the kitchen and under the sink, we've got the Dettol, lavender oil, PVA glue from the shed, and then of course we've got the nest felts and the nest pans themselves. And now this is a Canary Room favourite. It's our puffer, and that's got the diametric earth powder in. So what we do is we get all of the nest felts. You can see there's 4 in this bag now. I'm going to make 4 nests up. Close the bag over like that, and then with the puffer we just fill the bag. You can't overfill this, so we just leave that there. Don't need to tie it off, but I'm just going to twist it over, and you can see, you know, there's a lot of the diametric earth gone into the bag there now. I'm going to just leave those on the side while I do the rest of the preparation. So if I pop those down there. Now, this is not for my face, although some may say I may need it. What I'm going to do now is just soak this in neat Dettol. Now, I use the lavender and orange because an old tale is that mice don't like lavender. I have seen some red mite in this shed this year, despite all of the solutions and the cleaning and everything else. This is about, you know, just being vigilant. That's all you can do with mite. This will help. The mite definitely don't like it. It won't cure it and it won't last the entire season, so you've got to keep a focus, you've got to keep a look on it. So I'm just putting this solution on neatly. It goes on the outside of the pan, it goes in there, it goes on the back, and then it goes on the inside of the pan as well, all the way around. Now the pan is not wet by any stretch of the imagination, but it's got a lovely lavender smell to it. So that's the first stage complete. The nest pan has been prepared with the lavender solution. Next up, we open up the PVA. Now, when I first started keeping canaries almost 30 years ago, I used to sew the nest felts in. What I found was that the hens would pull at the string underneath, and within minutes of sewing them in, the hens had pulled them out. So now I use PVA glue. So I'm going to pop the glue down. I've got enough on the brush. I'm just going to push it all the way around the pan and put it around the bottom of the pan as well. Put a bit more on for good luck. So you can see the pan is ready with its PVA. All we do now is retrieve the pan liners. You can see there's a nice healthy layer of dust on them. Now you might say, well, why don't you just, put them in and then spray dust? This is really to try and get the dust to soak in. Just on your nest pan liners, particularly with these ones I'm using jute this year rather than wool. There's two different sides to them. There is a crisscross side there, which is the back, and then there's a non-crisscross side there, which is the front. So literally now, all we do, we put the pan liner over there and we gently but firmly push it down. We push it all the way around, and you can see the pan liner is now in place. I'm going to give, because I've been holding this, just one last little wipe round there with the solution, and on the back there and round the edges. So I'm going to set that aside now. I've got a few more to do. I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to leave it for about 30 minutes or so, just so it gets a chance for the glue to go off, so that the birds won't pull it out straight away. So I'll pop this down, and then in half an hour or so's time, we'll pop it in. So the beauty of filming and editing means that you haven't had to wait the whole half hour for the little pans to dry. They're now dry. We're going to pop them in. We're going to pop them in into the cages just behind me here to the left, where we've got our two Spanish Raza hens. So there's a cock in there with one of the hens. He's been feeding them. He's mated the bird at the top. Very keen on mating the bird at the bottom as well. So I'll pop these pans in and they should show interest in them straight away. Just seen the Razas that are a new addition to the shed. Back at the end of March, I went to my British hero, Alan Hoary's house for a quick visit to pick up some birds, including the Razas. Let's see how I got on. Well, we're back in the car again. We are back on our travels. This time, it's towards the end of March. We have got the opportunity to bring in a couple more birds to the Canary Room. Now it's awfully late, so they'd have to be absolutely stunning birds to bring them in. It won't surprise you that they are. We're off to my British mentor, a man I regard as having some of the finest Redpolls in the UK, Alan Hoary. So we're off to Alan's now to pick up a couple of cobalt Redpolls and some Raza canaries that we're going to use as feeders for the Redpolls. Hopefully we'll get a chance to do some filming at Al's. He's a very, very shy man, an incredible bird man. So hopefully we'll get some filming. He's only half an hour away from me, but if not, we'll film the birds when they arrive back in the Canary Room. So for now, over and out. Alan's birds are immaculate. Alan's setup is immaculate. As we walk in, we pan from left to right, and you get an extent of the quality of Alan's setup. The first bit of footage that we can see is a stunning pair of goldfinches. These are beautiful birds, absolutely beautiful birds, stunning condition. We'll follow up with a almost identical shot, but I can assure you it's different. It's a different pair of goldies. Again, absolutely beautiful birds, housed in the aviaries that they'll breed in for the year. We then see a trio of female hen redpolls. You can see Alan's got some broccoli there hanging from the ceiling for them. Birds are in immaculate condition. Stunning, stunning, stunning birds. Then this is a corner aviary of Alan's, and it's a little bit dark, but in here are redpolls, twites, goldfinches. Lovely, lovely aviary this, and the quality of the birds in there was stunning. We go back into Alan's shed and see one of the yellow hammers that he bred. An absolutely beautiful bird. Just got an in-cage shot of it now. Really, really beautiful. He's bred a couple of these each year for the last year and did very, very well on the show bench with them. So we wrapped up our time with Alan, and a stunning, stunning setup, stunning birds, absolute gentleman. Another new section of the show, it's the Redpoll diaries. So we're going to meet the polls that we picked up from Alan, and we'll see the other couple of pairs that we've got. So on every show, we're just going to check in for a couple of minutes on the Redpolls and just admire their beauty, catch up on their progress week by week. So we purchased a pair of cobalt Redpolls from Alan. Now, Alan did stunningly well on the show bench last year with his cobalts, so let's take a look at the latest additions to the Canary Room. This is our lesser pair of Redpolls. They've been together now for about 4 weeks. They're in a treble breeder with natural perches. I've put a nest pan on and they've started beaking, although they've not really shown any interest of going to nest. The pair in the flight cage have mated up and have got a couple of nest sites in. They haven't built yet. They're quite elusive, these birds, and proving quite challenging to film, as both of them just fly out of shot. I'm sure, with a little bit of encouragement, they'll be back. So the Redpoll Diaries is going to be a regular feature on the show. Beautiful little birds, and you know, we're very lucky in the room that we've got some cinnamon cobalt hen. We've got a pair of cobalts, a beautiful pair of normals. So we'll catch up with them as the season goes on. They're normally later to breed than the canaries. As I say, the pair in the flight at the bottom have mated up. No sign of any nest building yet, but I'm sure by the time that we're next in the room, that we'll see some progress there. I'm pleased to say that we've got currently 7 nests of chicks in the Canary Room. We've got a couple of fife nests behind us here. This is a mother and a daughter who've both been paired to different cockbirds. In here we've got 4 beautifully looking light birds. They are a grizzle mark on one of the cheeks, but they're out of a cockbird who we retained, who we've not bred anything from, so we know he fills eggs. I like the look of the young. I know it's, you can ask, how can you tell this early on? You can just see the definition already in the nest, so I like the look of the young. They're about 15 days old now, and I will run the cocking again over the next couple of days to make the hen up to tread for the next round. As we've been filming today, I noticed one of the pairs of reds, who also hatched on the same day, had mated up again. So they'll need another nest to pan in for their second round. In the cage next door is her daughter. So this is the second nest of one of 7. I'll bring these young out. I'm not going to touch that nest because they're likely to spring if I do, but I'll bring these out, and if we have a little look at this mat cam footage, we can see the first nests that hatched this year. So first and foremost, you can see we've got 2 reds out. First time that I've had any real success with the reds, certainly in this iteration of keeping them, and delighted to see them. If we take a look at those reds now, we can see that they've grown into nice, fluffy, strong birds. You can see that there's 4 young in this nest. There's 3 fifes here, and this is actually a red factor. Now, the 3 young in here, the 3 fifes are all off this hen. The red is off the top pair of reds, which we'll see in a moment, and they, as we'll see from this mat cam footage, have got 6 young in the nest. Now there's 3 reds and there's 3 fifes in there. The beauty of having the reds, and these, as you can see from the full crops and the birds, are doing a really good job of rearing, so I'm hopeful that we'll get all 6 to full feather. The joy of having the reds is that I've been able to put some fife nests, 5 eggs underneath them and get them to rear. These birds here have got nice full crops. They look nicely marked on the wings and the head. You can see the pins starting to come through. They're snuggled in tight. We're going to feed the young now, and we'll pop these ones back in the nest. Very fortunate at the moment in that I live very, very close to work, so I'm able to pop back in the day a couple of times and feed the adult birds the soft food. So I'm going to top them all up now. One thing really to note, which is we had 3 nests hatch yesterday, and all I'm doing with those birds is just giving them little finger foods, finger draws of egg food. With these birds here, they're getting both egg food and soak seed. Important that you don't introduce soak seed too early into the diet, because the young can't, although the adult hens will digest and regurgitate the food, it's not really very good for the young. So I wait until they're about 3 to 4 days old, they've grown a little bit, and then I introduce soak seed to those birds. So for the first 24 hours it's finger draws for those, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. But firstly, we'll top up the birds here, and hopefully you'll see the reds feeding. The reds, while we've been filming today, the reds with the oldest pairs, you can see just feeding behind me, have mated up again. Now, around 15, 16 days old, which is what the young are now, the adult birds will want to go back to nest. Got to be really careful at this time of year because they can pluck, they can do all kinds. You'll remember that the reds are in the room for a very good reason, and that was to help rear with the Norwich. Now both Norwich have laid and gone to nest. Their eggs are dotted under various different fifes at the moment, so hopefully they'll come good. The pair of Norwich just out of shot at the moment are building up and will look to lay again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this pan in now for the reds, in the hope that they'll start to build up as well, and I'm going to try and coincide the laying. What I'll do, I won't waste the red eggs. I'll either set them under a broody fife, or I may put them under the Norwich and see how the Norwich get on, see whether they're able to rear them. So I'm going to pop this pan in now. It's a clay pan, the treatment's exactly the same as we saw earlier on. It just hangs off the front of the cage. So before we wrap up the show today, it's the Canary Room question time. Another new feature. You can get in touch with us at info@thecanaryroom.tv, or you can do like Adam and Sharon and Simon and Ryan and Andrew have done, and contact us and ask us questions through the Facebook page. So we've got a few questions here. First one comes from Adam and Sharon at Kendall Fife Canaries. How do you decide if a white ground bird has yellow or buff feathers for pairing purposes? It's a really good question. It can be quite difficult. It's easier to do in blue, of bluebirds really, because you can normally tell by the colour of the blue. So an intense blue is more often than not a yellow feathered bird. You can also look at the flights. Now, a number of the yellow and buff birds, a number of the yellow birds in white ground have like a yellowy tinge onto the edge of the flights. Now, let's not mistake, yellow. We're not talking the colour here. We're talking the feather type. Another good way is to look at the silhouette of the bird. So a tighter bird is more often than not a yellow. We've got a blue-yellow hen in the Canary Room. We've got a blue-yellow cock, and both are quite intense in colour. It's a challenge. I think with white ground birds, I'm never that concerned if I think I'm double buffing, because I think there's a fineness to the white feather. So I think you can carry a double buff. It's not something I would normally recommend. So I hope that answers the question. The next question is from Simon Gambin. So thanks for the question, Simon. How does one improve to get that break in the neck? How does one improve type to get that break in the neck? And how and what are the effects of double yellowing and double buffing? And do these contribute to achieving type? What's really clear, particularly with the Fife Canary, it's a type canary, so actually its entire shape is determined by its feather. One of the reasons that you can struggle to get that break in the neck, that nip in the neck as we call it, is if the feather is too long. So if you see from the back skull of the bird, the feather can almost sort of drift away, and then it can make it look thick in the neck, particularly in the buff birds. The only thing to do to improve it is to find birds with the feature and pair them together. So you're doubling up on the positive. So you're looking for a bird with that good break in the neck, and to pair it to another bird with a good break in the neck. The effects of double yellowing, I have done it before in the past. It can bring an intensity of colour back in. It can, but I've found, and particularly with clear birds, that there's a chance for them to go what I call snaky. So the heads will go thin. The birds themselves will feel longer. And all in all, they're not overly attractive. Now, as I say, I have done it. It can be done. It can intensify the colour. So you've got two really good green yellow birds, pairing them together. You should just fix that intensity of green. But you've got to consider the overall type. Similar situation with buff. If you pair two buff birds together, you can, that will put additional feather on your birds. But what that can do is thicken things up, so it can thicken the neck up, and that's obviously not something that you want with a type canary. By all means, the beauty with canaries, I think, is it's about trial and error. So sometimes birds, if they've got a sort of intermediate hard feather or an intermediate soft feather, you can get away with double buffing birds, and that will work to some extent. But one of the beauties about canaries is that there's it's your own experience, so it's what you try in your shed. There's not massive amounts of science behind it. What we generally do as fanciers is take the scientific studies from hen keeping and chicken keeping and those different areas of bird keeping, and try and apply the science back to canaries. So very much trial and error. couple of questions. I hope I've given you some reasonable answers. You can get in touch, as I say, with the show through the Facebook page or directly on email at info@thecanaryroom.tv, and we hope we'll make this a regular feature. So that's all we've got time for today's show. I hope you like the new format for season 2. Don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram as well. Subscribe if you haven't already to our YouTube channel. And until next time, take care.